Hi, folks. It's Larry Talks again. This program is about a series on TV, on actually YouTube, called Zach and Dennis. Dennis Nolete. Um, it's a five-part on YouTube. Um, about a romantic relationship between an older man and a younger man. And it's very well done. Its goal seems to be to say, you know, gay men don't just have sex, they actually have romance. And this is what it looks like. And between an older man and a younger man, and it successfully shows that that drama takes place, that romantic drama. So I'm responding to that. I have two things to say. By the way, I recommend the series on YouTube. It's really well done. It's in five pieces, and um, each piece is about 10 minutes long, and at least does prove that you can have a believable romance between an older man and a younger man. And my response to this theme, as you know, if you saw my last program on romance, I don't much believe in it. Because I have two relationships, one over 50 years with a woman in which I have no sex, and one with a man who's 12, 13 years with no sex, and yet we connect almost every day. And that sustains my life. The common element in this series and me is what I find about Dennis, who is the writer and producer of this, is he has a stability like I have, that sense of being in place. Part of it has to do with the fact that he has no financial problems whatsoever. In fact, his ex-lover's coming in asking him for $100 million, and he says no. And this gets me off on the main point I wish to make about older men in homosexual relationships. And when you're a single person, as I am, everybody thinks you have money, and and it's true that you're quite financially stable. And let's see, Dennis is the character, seems really, really stable. At one point, he says to the younger lover, he says, you think I'm desperate? And it's clear that he's not. Well, why not? Because he has a stability in his life. For myself, I have to say my stability comes not just from my financial stability, which it took a lifetime to achieve, and I'm very comfortable with it. I'm not rich, but I don't want for anything, even though I spend a lot of time doing good for others. I raise $5,000 a year working in a thrift shop for the homeless and veterans and children. But I don't want anything for myself. But I'll tell you the two things that this series ignores about older men and young, that whole scene. Number one is it has the same view I have, is that I'm at a better place I've ever been in my life because my relationships are stable. My ex-wife, it's more like family. It's like you having a family non-sexual relationship that's absolutely unconditionally stable because they're family. And that's what my ex-wife is to me. 50 years, I talk to her every other day, and I go see her. She's almost blind, so I'm doing more for her than she can do for me. She's not going to be able to help me when I fall. On the other hand, Fernando has been there. We've traveled a lot in the last 12 years, and I see him twice a year, and he is so incredibly stable. I mean, he's there for me like a family member is there for me every day on the phone, and almost every day on the phone. And 2 weeks out of the year, we're together. And that is that's his commitment, and he keeps it. And after 12 years, I'm pretty convinced that that's not going to change. So I feel very, very secure. But the thing that program did not deal with is the fact that when you're my age, I'm 77, one of my doctors said to me, there's nothing to be done. You have high blood pressure. You're going to die someday soon. More medication, nothing's going to help. She was wrong. I went to another doctor and he said, oh, you got 10 years. I have no chronic illness. But I know that in 20 years I'm going to be dead. I don't know how. But I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm going to have to deal with a period of disability. And I think about that every day and I wonder, who's going to be there when I fall? I see people at the thrift shop falling, volunteers who can't do it anymore. And I wonder who's going to take care of them. And the answer is nobody. It just seems they drop out and the church doesn't do anything. No, I don't know what happens to them. I don't know what's going to happen to me in that regard, in regard to the immediate. I do have a niece who says she'll be there. There's no evidence that she'll have time for that. So I don't know. So that's an uncertainty I have to deal with every day. So the question I continue to ask myself, who's going to look out for me? I mean, physically, like a parent looks out for a child when you're disabled. I have no idea what's going to happen when that happens to me. I'm trying to take care of it as much as possible. And I do have to say, at this point in my life, I go to the gym every other day. I have no chronic illness. There's no reason to believe it's going to be soon. But it will happen. I mean, I'm 77 years old, and every day I hear from my alumni association people who died and are dying and so on. And I read the obituaries every day and see people younger than me dying every day, younger than me, a lot younger than me. And then I also see people living to 100, a lot. So I don't know. It's very uncertain. But that is a factor that the drama doesn't deal with, and which I have to deal with every day of my life. The other thing, which I really admire about this series, is that they show, and after all, Dennis Nolete is the writer and the producer of this series. It's a 10-minute series on YouTube, and I watched them all. It takes an hour to watch them all, and it's quite well done. And it is encouraging to see this person who has his shit together as much as I do. And why? I understand why. Because he's at the most stable place he's ever been in his life. And the writing shows that. When I say the two things it doesn't deal with is the fact that they're trying to make this guy my age be like a teenager and a romantic and all that. And it just it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make any sense because he is where he ought to be in his life. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't reach out to others, and the series is fine. I don't find anything wrong with it. But, we're all trying to be romantic heterosexuals. Is that the model? I say bullshit, I mean, that's not what I want. I want stability. I want commitment. I want to know I'm cared for. I want to know I can care for. I want to know people respond to me. And they do. I mean, I have lots of sex on TV on, what do you call that? I mean, all the flirting and all the sexual stuff. And I have great sex once in a while. I have great sex. So that's I understand that, but that's not the center of my life. The center of my life, I had a dream once, very recently. It's rather interesting. It took me back to what it felt like when I was in family, and realized that when you're in a family, think of it when you're in childhood. It's not a romantic two-parent relationship. It's three. It's a threesome because you matter. You're in the center of that love. I had 4 brothers and 2 parents. And the dream took me back to what it felt like when I was a child. And you know what it felt like? Absolute safety, absolute security, absolute everything taken care of for me. The dream reminded me of that state and what a wonderful state that was. That's what I get from the relationships I now have. um, I guess the dream was telling me that and the line, the most profound line in this series of Dennis and Zach is when he says, "Oh, do you think I'm desperate?" And it's real clear that he's not. And I have the same feeling in any kind of where someone's coming on to me sexually. Do you think I'm desperate because I look like I'm old and I'm at a disadvantage? No, 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 no. I'm not at a disadvantage. I'm at an advantage because I'm in control of my life, number one. I have people that care about me. I mean, like a child is cared for by mom and dad. That kind of caring. I have that in my life. So, wow. And I haven't had that during my adult years until recently. That feeling with these people, with a 50-year-old relationship with my ex-wife, and then Fernando, who I've known for 13 years, and he's just there for me all the time in a way that no one has ever been there for me. So that's what I wish to say, that interesting thing that is literature doesn't bring up about old people is that there's a line in a movie which I just love. This guy says to this older woman, "You want to have sex with me?" And she says, "No." And he says, "Why not?" And she says, "Because I know who I am. I know who I am. I don't need to have this to make me feel young again. I know who I am. I know." And again, her whole thing was family, that she had family and she knew what love that family. What is the name of that movie? Wonderful. Um, anyway, I know who I am. Um, I recommend seeing this, though. It'll make you. It's really well done. It's called Zach and Dennis by Dennis Nolette on YouTube. It's 15-minute pieces of the drama of their relationship, and basically saying older and younger men can have really sincere connections. What I don't like about it is the idea that the younger guys just seem to be trying to use this older man. Of course, he knows it and he doesn't buy it. And you have this sense that he has something about himself that transcends, which, the story doesn't really, I don't know if it conveys why, it tells the audience why this man is not bothered by these young guys trying to get his money and trying to get his affection. And do they really want to know him? It seems like they do in that sense. Again, it's a good romantic, what we call a romantic comedy, and that everybody gets what they want in the end. So it's not a tragedy. I don't know where it's going. I don't know if there are other parts to it, but so far it's worth watching. I would recommend it. And my response is it doesn't deal with two things. One, the fact that the older man is going to die one day, the certainty of death is always on his shoulder at somewhere down the line, and who's going to look out for him. And the second issue is the amazing wisdom that older men and women have, because if they have been honest with themselves and have made connections with people that care about them, you're forced to. I mean, I have done that because I guess I realize I'm getting older and it's put up or shut up, and I put up and I have gotten rewarded. I mean, I am happier than I've ever been in my entire life, and I feel that what I'm doing, I have a legacy. Fernando will be my legacy. He will have something from me, but he will never forget who I have been in his life, just like more like a parent than a lover. But that's fine with me. Wow, I mean, isn't that an accomplishment for a gay man at 77 to say, I truly know what it's like to be a father, a real father, not a lover, a father, and to be loved by a son who loves me like a son ought to love a father. To have that, well, there's nothing in the world that can buy that. And that's why I'm a happy man. And that's my evaluation of the whole scene. I have to end by saying, you say, oh, well, that's a weird, kind of pretty idiosyncratic kind of relationship to have with people, not to have a primary sexual relationship. And my answer is, I have run into so many gay men who've said have the same kind of relationship. Only you never hear about it in literature, you never hear about it in magazines, you never hear about it on TV. Why is that? So I'm trying to make you aware that there's this other dimension. The Greeks called it storge, that is the affection of a family love. That's and maybe they say in old age you retire to youth, and maybe that's what I'm doing. But it doesn't feel bad at all to have that in my life, and that we should acknowledge that kind of love. I guess that's what I'm saying. We should acknowledge the feeling of family love. After all, if you're a gay person, you have to create your own family. You know that. And that when you choose members out there who you choose as family members, it really makes a difference in your life. And that's what I'm trying to support. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not a new message, but I do hear it from individuals. I do not hear it in the media, but I've heard stories from so many gay individuals about the very kind of thing I'm talking about. They would say, I'll have sex with you, but I love a man in his 80s. We don't have sex anymore. And why would somebody tell me this story? Because it means so very much to them. And they're saying to me, there's something so much more important in my life than sex, and it's love. It's a love that two people have for each other because they really know each other and they're really committed to each other. And this has gone on for years. Well, Fernando and I are 12 years, So that's all I have to say. I think that's enough, don't you? What are we going to call this program? We'll call it, today is August 24th, 2017. We'll call this program, I think we'll call it About Dennis. We'll call it About Dennis and Older Men. That's what we'll call it. Older Men Still Love. That's the theme of this. Older men still love. What does that mean? It means something different. And I've tried to explain that through talking about a review of a series on YouTube called Dennis and Zach. That's it.